I'd like to explore with you this morning, explore together this sense of kind of our default sense of, being an individual. And it's a beautiful perspective on life, feeling ourselves as individuals existing in a world. I mean, it's all something we're, you know, very familiar with. And um, and of course, as you know, having been exploring this stuff either on your own or with me, that there is this other way of encountering life that we actually are encountering, but often just sort of not noticing, kind of overlooking. And that is the sense of there not being any division at all. So if you just feel the sense of being, just feeling what you think of as your own existence, as the sense of being kind of localized here, your being, just feel that. Now, again, ordinarily we have this feeling of kind of localized, where the sense of being has a kind of an edge to it and a boundary around it. And we're sort of in this, um, we're here, right? And there's something, I mean, it's right there in language, right? There's here and there's there. I mean, where does that come from? It comes from this sense of the sense that life, or the intelligence of life, or consciousness, creates a sense of being here, and that there's a there, right? That's not here. We're just feeling that sense of being here, and this sense that there's something not here. It's over there, right? It's other than you, other than this feeling of being, the whole world that presumably exists outside of you. And as you feel the sense of being, of you, of the being here, we ordinarily feel there's this kind of edge, the boundary of us, that sort of circumscribes us. Often that sense of the boundary is the skin line, right? The skin suit. That's kind of where we end, and then there's a world that exists outside of this autonomous skin-bound body, right? So just feeling a sense of being, and then kind of venturing out to the edge of the presumed edge of you, the supposed edge of you, where you come to an end, and the boundary of you meet the boundary of you, and then on the other side of that boundary is not you, right? So just go to that presumed edge with consciousness, just moving to the edge of you, feeling that edge, whatever it might be, whatever you imagine it to be, maybe the skin line, and notice it is. You can feel that presence of that supposed edge of you, the aliveness of it, the being of it. Just feel that. And notice that that presumed edge of, say, the body, the skin line, the feeling of that, the beingness of that, the aliveness of that doesn't really have an edge to it, does it? Do you find a firm stop, that you get to the edge of you and it stops somehow? Or when you feel that edge, supposed edge of you, the boundary of you, of your being, in my case, the existence of John, and I get to the end of the edge of John, and I feel that, what do I find? I find the presence of experience, the presence of life. I find being. Just feel your own supposed edge and notice it doesn't have an edge to it. It doesn't have an end to it. It's just wide open being. If you imagine yourself sort of moving away from yourself, from here, presence of you and this supposed edge, and then moving beyond any imagined edge of, say, the body again, the skin line, to what's outside of you. Let's say, we have this feeling of like the atmosphere around us, the air around us is outside of us, right? There's us contained within the body, the edge of the body, and then on the other side of that edge is, the air. This is how we think about our own existence in a world. But as you to encounter that which is outside of you, outside of the body, go there to find outside of you, outside of your being. And what do you find? You find the presence of something, the beingness of something. In other words, you find more being. So this is the continuum of being, as I sometimes call it, the being of you, the being of the edge of you, and on the other side of you, more being. It's like a continuum. We could talk about it like an inside and an edge, and then an outside of that edge, but all of it is being, isn't it? A continuum of being. In this sense, there's absolutely no clearly findable subject and object, self and other, inside or outside. There's just a continuum of being. When you feel the moment, when you feel the presence of the moment, the presence of experiencing, this is what you find, don't you? You do not find self and other. You do not find an inside and outside. You find a wide open expanse of experiencing, a wide open, edgeless expanse of being, don't you? Just feel that continuum of being that shows up as all this stuff that we think of as separate and interaction, including us, the body, mind, and the world outside of us. But all of it is this continuum of being, isn't it? It's all here as existence, as presence, as experiencing. It's absolutely undivided, isn't it? There's no division. There's no sections to it, actually, that are somehow split off from one another. In this field of experiencing, this field of being that we're encountering, that's being encountered, you don't find things with a gap separating that thing from another thing, do you? You just find, again, this continuum, this seamless whole of experiencing. In a sense, you can kind of feel both, you can feel like the individual of you, the individual unique wave of being that you are. And you can look out, if your eyes are open, and look out and see all these other seemingly autonomous waves that are appearing of objects and forms and then also experiences that are distinguishable one from the other. This is very interesting. Like you can distinguish sound from thought. You can distinguish, that I can distinguish the chair from the computer, but all of it is being as experience. All of it is being experienced. And in the experience of all of this apparently separate stuff interacting with one another, the experience has no parts, does it? There's no sections to your experience, as I was saying, no portions separated from some other portion of experience. There's just this wholeness without end, without boundary, without border, absolutely unbounded, endless expanse, the limitless expanse, as the Tibetans call it. Limitless expanse of being, of life. So you can feel yourself again as this individual, unique wave-like expression of life that you are. And at the same time, you can feel how this individual expression of this continuum of life, of being, is absolutely already fully dissolved as being. It's very so paradoxical, isn't it? It's like you can feel the individuality in one sense and the separation in one sense, and you can look and just turn the kaleidoscope for a moment and see, wow, there's absolutely no division anywhere. It's just already all dissolved as being. There's no, we're here as individuals, and at the same time, no separate individual can be found because it's just a continuum of being, isn't it? Nothing actually separating us from not us. There's just this being, this miraculous being. It's really why I emphasize feeling experience so much, because in the felt sense of what we call experience, you feel you feel this presence of whatever you might be describing as what you're feeling. It could be whatever, my butt on the cushion, or it doesn't matter how you might be describing it, but the felt sense of the feeling of what's here, the felt sense of that's the feeling of being. And that's all we're ever feeling, the feeling of being, right? In all the different forms that feeling can seem to take, all the different flavors of it, all the different nuances of it. But that's what I mean by the continuum of being. You could say, there's just all these different frequencies of being, the different ways being can look. And then we imagine the world is split into all those different ways that being can look. But as a feeling, you don't find, when you feel the moment that's here, and travel around that moment with consciousness, move through the field of experiencing, you never run into something other than experience, do you? It's like if you feel being, which is the same as saying feeling experience, and you move sort of, as I was saying, outside of you, you just keep finding being. You just keep running into more and more being. You never find anything else. So whether you go inside yourself, so-called, or outside of yourself, you find the presence, the feeling of the moment. You always are feeling being. Do you see what I mean? You're never feeling anything else but being. The one taste of everything is its being. And that's what you're always experiencing, no matter what you're experiencing. All the different versions of being. And yes, we have our preferences for certain versions of being, of existence over others, you could say, but it's actually, no particular experience will remove you from this limitless expanse of being, because all of it is a limitless expanse of being. See? So you can just relax, because you are experiencing the limitless expanse of being right now. You are experiencing the one, the one thing being everything always, because there is nothing else to ever experience but that. You couldn't possibly experience anything but that limitless expanse, because it is everything, which makes it simple. It's what you're currently perceiving. Exactly in the way you're experiencing it is the limitless expanse of being. So you don't need to correct it. You don't need to change it. You don't need to modify it because it is already this flow of being.